we start the video, or should we just keep playing time? Do you want to just play time splits?
I'm not playing time splitters. Alright.
How are we gonna
Introduce yourself?
Yeah, we're doing the video now, yeah?
Yeah. Hang on. Just...
I think this is how you should start the video, exactly. Just like... Okay.
Just so like you caught me relaxing.
You've caught me relaxing, playing good old Time Splitters 2, if anyone remembers this fucking... Stop swearing. If anyone remembers this great game. Hello, so this video is about the origins of the name Lonely Gimmick and about my musical origins, my backstory. So, let's get this started. I was forced against my will from a young age to play piano by my father, who never had the opportunity to learn piano as a kid because he was from a poor family, from a council estate in, well, I won't say where from, council estate in England. And he never had the chance, always wanted to learn piano, so he wanted his son to learn piano. So he made me learn piano, and I hated it at the time, and he used to drag me to the piano. But as I got older, I really appreciated all the effort he put into making me learn music. And then later on, I used to hate playing classical. I used to learn classical piano. But then when I went to school, when I was about 12 years old, all the kids in my school were playing electric guitar, and I thought it was the coolest instrument ever, and they were playing all these songs that I liked and we listened to, and I was like, I want to do that, I want to play guitar. It's like, you know, the people's instrument. So I picked up the guitar. My dad got me a guitar from Argos, one of those cheap ones where it comes with a little amp and a guitar, and I started learning there, and because I'd learned piano, I picked it up really quick. Well, I'm not a very good guitarist, I'm okay. But I picked it up a lot quicker than a lot of the other kids who were trying to learn electric guitar, and that's where I continued from. And yeah, so all the bands at the time, there was during the beginning of the indie days, back then I was about 12 or 11 or something, and all these bands, guitar music was getting big. It was before Arctic Monkeys and stuff like that, but it was around the time of Kaiser Chiefs and The Darkness. And so the first song I ever learned actually was The Darkness, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. I can still play it. Oh look, I have a guitar right here. Do I have a pick? I have a pick. So it's like, this is the first song I ever learned on guitar. Power chords. I try not to use them in any of my songs, but I love power chords. But the first riff I ever learned on guitar was... something like that. I haven't practiced it, you know, but that was the first thing I ever learned on guitar, good old power chord. And the second song actually was Black Sabbath. Again, I'm a little bit rusty, I haven't had time to practice. You gotta practice every day, or you become like me. Unfortunately, I have a real job, so I can't sit around and play guitar anymore. The very first show I played was when I was about 12 or 13, when I first picked up the guitar in my school, and I joined this band with what we called him the best guitarist in the school, because he could play all the solos and he was just really good at the time for our age. And I joined the band with this guy, and he was really into Guns N' Roses. And then we practiced loads, and we wanted to play shows, but we were only 12 or 13 or 11 or something like that. And we couldn't play any proper shows because we were so young. So we signed up for a school assembly. Assembly, like, you know, the meetings where you say the prayers or whatever, Church of England school. And so we did this assembly and we played Welcome to the Jungle. And we had the school amps and we set up for the school assembly. And we had I had a school lead patch cable, but I had my guitar. And it was broken because all equipment at your school was always going to be broken because you're a bunch of 12-year-olds and you're stepping on the leads and breaking equipment. And so I plugged in my guitar, but the lead patch cable would constantly fall out of my guitar, and it would fall out. And so anyway, we got up to go and play this assembly, and I was playing and the lead fell out, but no one noticed because it was right at the beginning of the song. But I was too embarrassed and I was too scared and nervous to bend down, pick up the lead and plug it back into my guitar because it would have made like a popping sound. So I played this whole school assembly just pretending that I was plugged in, and I still played it properly. All the while the other guitarist is playing and doing it properly and like nailing all the solos without my rhythm parts behind them. And I finished the show and I didn't tell anyone. And then everyone came up to the really good guitarist after the assembly and said, "Oh dude, that was so cool, like you did so well, your guitar playing was so good." And I was just in the back. It's like, "Hey, so what did you guys think of my guitar playing?" And they just said, "Yeah, we couldn't really hear you." And of course they couldn't hear me because my guitar wasn't plugged in. But I didn't want them to know that my guitar wasn't plugged in because it was embarrassing. And that was my first ever show. Yeah, I moved to Canada and I got Canadian citizenship, and I went to this high school there, and it was like I found out they did like a school band night. So it was after school, and we had the gymnasium, and it had this stage in the gymnasium, and all these bands would form inside the high school, and people would perform shows. So you had like the metal kids would do a metal band, and like I did like an indie band because I was really into my British indie. And there's all sorts, you know, the girls would go up and play acoustic guitars and sing songs, and it was really cool. It was a really good musical environment, and it really got me into music. And I found out about that, and I was brand new to the school. I had no friends, and I just moved there from London, England, to the middle of nowhere in Canada, what it felt like in the countryside. And then I found out I could, you know, go and perform live on stage with my guitar, and so I started a band. I met a drummer, and we started playing together, and then I was like, we need a bass player. So there's this guy, we had a guitar class in our school, and there was this guy I met, and I was like, "Do you want to play bass? I can teach you how to play bass." I mean, you know how to play bass, guys. I did this in another video. That's bass. So I taught him how to do, you know, stuff like that. And we started this band. And then we played our very first show, and it felt like a proper real show because it was after school. You know, everyone from school would go, and there'd be like mosh pits and everything, and it was just a really good environment to, you know, do your first shows to. And you just a bunch of kids, no idea what they were doing, just on stage with amps and just playing and rocking out, and all the kids from school would come, and you'd kind of be a hero the next day if you played, and it was a great feeling. We wrote loads of songs, and we started trying to write our own songs. Was there anything else? But yeah, in Canada, I was in the same band for ages in Canada, and eventually, once we got older, like 17, we were half decent. We were still okay, but we got this guitar. Lots of the members would change. It was just me and the drummer stayed the same, and we got this new guitarist in, and he was friends with a guy who did the promotions for like one of the good venues in the town we were in. So you'd have all these like bands on labels would come through the town, and they'd play, and we managed to get opening slots for them. This is when we were like 17, 18, so we could play the under 18 shows. And I remember we opened for a great Canadian band, Colorado. Check them out if you don't know them. We opened for them, and that was one of the best shows of my life. Because they gave the bands tickets, and we'd sell the tickets, and the promoter would give us money from the ticket sales. But it was a proper one. You didn't have to sell any tickets. As many tickets as you sold, he'd give you a cut of the profits, and then you go and open for these bands. You know, to us, they were like our heroes at the time. They were older, they were like 30, but they were making money from music, and they were coming through towns just touring, and we'd get to meet them. And Colorado, I remember when we got the show, when our guitarist told us, we're going to open for Colorado, we were just over the moon, and we sold the tickets like that. Every one of our friends wanted to come and see Colorado, and wanted to see us play. And we had it was a small kind of venue, tiny stage, like just a step off, and the place was packed, like, there's about 200, 300 people in this tiny little bar, and it was just wall to wall, like you couldn't move. And we opened for them. We played right before them, and they came up after we opened for them. They came up and shook our hand, like, "Thank you so much for warming up the crowd. You guys were great, like you were perfect. Yeah, and it was amazing. And then we got to see them live, and we love them. Like we love their music. I still listen to their music to this day. The first album, Record in a Bag, great album. Another band opened for Grimes, Elon Musk's wife. This is before she was married to Elon Musk, obviously. She came through town and she toured, and we opened for her. And we got really drunk at the show because we were old enough to drink at that point. And we got really drunk, and then we were speaking. She came and spoke to us after the show, and we were hanging out with her in the car park outside, and we were really drunk, hugging her and telling her to join our band. That was quite funny. There's a photo somewhere of me and the drummer at the time, and we were hugging her and stuff, and she was really nice to us. And we met the Pack AD. We didn't really speak to them too much. Pack AD, who else did we open? We opened for a bunch of bands that came through, some really good acts, and that was a good time in my life. It was a small town, so it was like, there wasn't a lot of competition like you get in London. That's my stories there, that's the bands I've opened for. Good old Canadian music scene, Canadian indie music scene is underrated for sure. I used to check out Born Ruffians, or another great Canadian band, they're quite well known. Colorado, Justin Bieber. LCCM, London College of Creative Media, I believe it's called now. It was called something else at the time. I studied there, 21, 22. Oh yeah, like music production and engineering, which is how I record my own music now, because I've always been recording my own music with my old bands. We used to just get a laptop and shitty mics, crappy mics, and we used to just set up and try and record and make things sound good. And obviously, a lot of the time it never really did sound any good because we didn't know what we were doing. But I always kept doing it. I used to record in my bedroom. From about 15 I was recording my own music onto a laptop, and I just wanted to get better at it, so I went and studied it. And yeah, I studied with great teachers there, and a guy called Richie Stevens, who's the producer for Boy George, and he's done a bunch of his own stuff, and he really taught me a lot, and I used to love his classes. Same with Nick Hunt, was a great teacher. He's like an engineer, and he worked with Depeche Mode in the 80s as a sound producer engineer, and he taught me so much about Logic, and I learned so much from him. And then we had to study some jazz. That wasn't theoretically correct, but ignore that. So yeah, jazz. So I don't really like. I mean, jazz is good, but I don't really play jazz, I guess. I did learn nice 7th chords sound good, and I realised a lot of 7th chords are good. Like King Cruel will use a lot of 7th chords in. Seventh chord, that's just literally major 7, sliding down the neck. Easy, easy! Yeah. So I just learned the 7th chord, so I already kind of knew how to play them, but I didn't really know what they were. I didn't really know what I was doing on the guitar. I still don't really know what I'm doing, but I can kind of understand it better thanks to theory lessons. And yeah, what else did I learn? I joined a couple of bands. I'm always joining these bands. I'm a band whore, not anymore. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Yeah, so I joined a couple of bands. I was a synth player for one because I could play keyboards, and I had a little synth, and I needed a keyboard player, so I was like, yeah, I'll play keyboards. And then we got played on BBC Introducing, which was really cool. And then I started another band, and with a singer. We had an amazing female vocalist. She was great, a really soulful, like that strong female power vocal. And yeah, we did a good job. And then we broke up because once we graduated, they all moved back to Europe and Scotland and America, because we were all from different countries. And I stayed in London. So that broke up, and then I just continued making music on my laptop, and that's kind of how Lonely Gimmick kind of started. So I've always, bands break up and then other things form, door closes but windows open, so hey. After my band, after I got kicked out of one of the bands, so after the keyboard, I was too rock and roll, basically. I was way too rock and roll, way too much of a rock and roller for that band, so they kicked me out of that band, when I was playing keyboards. I think I was getting all the groupies, and I was just showing everyone up because I was so good at keyboards, so they kicked me out. and they're still going to this day. They've got other keyboard players, and the other band broke up because we all moved away. And then so I just continued making music on my laptop. I'm always making music on my own, and I wanted to start releasing music, and I was originally just going to use my real name. And I was looking online, googling, searching, and there was too many people using my name on SoundCloud and Spotify. There were too many of them, and I didn't want to get bogged down in that. So I needed another name, and I heard that Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, got his name from a Wu-Tang Clan name generator. And I was like, I'm going to try this. I went online and did band generated names and did Wu-Tang Clan generated names. And I didn't really like anything it came up with, and I was like, screw it, I'll just use my real name. But I wanted to do the Vaporwave font, so I went on a Vaporwave Google Translate thing that would change the thing into Vaporwave format. And it came up with some Japanese characters, or came up with some Chinese characters. At the end, so it would say that my real name, and then a Japanese character, and then my other last name, and a Japanese character, or Mandarin, or whatever it was. And I was like, I wonder what that actually says. And so I put them separately into Google Translate, and it said lonely, and it said gimmick. So I was like, wow, whoa, Lonely Gimmick, like, that's a great name. And that's how I got my name. From Google searches and from name generators and Vaporwave text generators. So yeah, I think it was meant to be. It was a sign. Yeah, that's the history of my name. Lonely Gimmick, and I decided to be anonymous. So I went to music uni, and I have a lot of musical friends, and they're all good. Like, they're all good. The thing I hate about it and the social media and everything is, my newsfeed on my personal accounts is full of my musician friends, and they've all got these nice photos of themselves and good lighting and photographers. They all look like models, and I just got fed up with it. I was like, it's just too much beauty. Social media is too much beauty. I didn't want to be like Kim Kardashian and selling beauty. I didn't want to be Brad Pitt. I wanted my music to be just about the music. I didn't want to have to go take nice photos of myself, you know? I didn't want to have to do any of that, and I didn't want any of my music to be compared to my old music. I didn't want to my old bands, to anything like that. I wanted it to be separate. I wanted it to be a brand new. I wanted to wipe the slate clean. I wanted everyone to be able to connect with it. I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. Although a lot of people are now, I've seen doing this. Obviously Banksy, Daft Punk. I know, I get it. It's a gimmick. Like, it goes with the name, Lonely Gimmick. I'm a guy on his own, and I'm anonymous. It's a gimmick. Like, it just works. And yeah, I just didn't want to be that other sexy musician guy. I didn't want to be sexy musician person with beautiful photos. I didn't want it to be about, he's gay, or he's straight, or he's this. I didn't want it to be about, I didn't want it to be anything about anything. I just want to write songs and release them. And whatever you get from them, if you hate them, then that's cool. If you don't, just take what you want from it, you know? I don't want you to think anything from it. Just, it is what it is. It's just Lonely Gimmick. It's just my music. It's it. Hello there. I am Lonely Gimmick. I currently have a Kickstarter campaign running. Please go and donate so I can buy myself some sleeves. You can also get yourself a CD, a tape, and a t-shirt. If I reach £2,000, I'll be able to release vinyl records of my album that is coming out. So please go donate. You can find the link in the description or somewhere around this video. Kickstarter.
So what do you do for a job at the moment?
I'm a bartender.
Tell me about bartending.
My real job is rock and roll. Huh?
Tell me about bartending.
You pour pints and you make cocktails and you take money. And that's about it, really.